Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lisa Gokenauer talking to you again this week. And for this assignment, I decided to talk about the Scopes monkey trial. So here we go. In the summer of 1925, the quiet town of Dayton, Tennessee became the unlikely stage for one of the most dramatic legal and cultural battles in American history, the Scopes monkey trial. At its core, the trial was not just about a biology teacher violating a state law. It was a symbolic confrontation between two powerful forces shaping early 20th century America, fundamentalism and modernism. The trial began when John T. Scopes, a young high school teacher, was charged with teaching Charles Darwin's theory of evolution in violation of Tennessee's Butler Act, which prohibited the teaching of any theory that denied the divine creation of man as taught in the Bible. But this wasn't a spontaneous arrest. As reported in the Evening Star on May 20th, 1925, the case was deliberately orchestrated by local leaders in the ACLU as a test case to challenge the law. The article even recounts how a local engineer and evolutionist was physically attacked by a barber for suggesting humans descended from lower forms, a vivid example of how emotionally charged the issue had become. The trial quickly escalated into a national spectacle. William Jennings Bryan, a three-time presidential candidate and devout Christian, volunteered to prosecute the case, defending the literal interpretation of the Bible. On the other side stood Clarence Darrow, one of the most famous defense attorneys in the country, who saw the trial as a fight for intellectual freedom and scientific progress. A July 20th, 1925 article from the Washington Post captures some of the courtroom drama. It describes how Darrow, in a moment of frustration, was cited for contempt of court after clashing with Judge Ralston. The article also notes a powerful moment when a letter from former President Woodrow Wilson was read aloud, stating, quote, "Of course, like every other man of intelligence and education, I do believe in organic evolution," end quote. This moment underscored how the trial had become a national referendum on science, education, and religious authority. The trial reached its climax when Darrow called Bryan to the stand as an expert on the Bible. In a stunning cross-examination, Darrow questioned Bryan on the literal truth of the Genesis creation story, exposing contradictions and challenging the idea that faith and science must be at odds. And for me, as a Christian and a scientist, I think that is the key point. I do not believe that faith and science have to be at odds. I believe they can go hand in hand and that they can work together and be built upon each other, and that there is no inconsistency in that. Though the judge later struck the testimony from the record, the moment was seared into public memory. Coverage from ProQuest historical newspapers reveals how journalist H.L. Mencken, writing for the Baltimore Sun, portrayed the trial as a battle between enlightenment and ignorance. He mocked the anti-evolution crowd and described Dayton as a town gripped by religious hysteria. Mencken's biting commentary helped shape public perception, casting the fundamentalists as backward and anti-intellectual. In the end, Scopes was found guilty and fined $100, but the real outcome was far more complex. While the fundamentalists won the legal battle, the modernists arguably won the cultural war. The trial exposed deep divisions in American society between rural and urban, tradition and progress, faith and reason. The Scopes trial remains a defining moment in the fundamentalist-modernist controversy. It wasn't just a courtroom drama. It was a mirror reflecting the soul of a nation wrestling with its identity in a rapidly changing world. Thank you for your time.